Yes.
Go ahead and start.
Please.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this beautiful day and the opportunity to meet here again. Please bless us as we go over the agenda before us. Give us the wisdom to execute the duties for the good of the community and the Board of Public Works. Help us, Father, to be mindful of this Lenten season, that our prayers, fasting, and giving to those who are less fortunate than us bring us closer to you. We pray that the voters of our community get out and vote their conscience on Proposition S on April 2nd. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next up, consent agenda. Minutes, payrolls, and claims. Hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll say.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Comments from the audience? I see nobody signed up. And anybody have comment? Nope. Okay, proceed to regular reports.
Just a few items to point out. Last week on Wednesday, river prediction came up to above 20 feet. So we started making our flood prevention preparations for our policy. Friday, the prediction jumped up to 25 feet.
So it's
Got ready to
scary.
start making more predictions today, and then of course over the weekend it lowered back down to 21, 22. So if you remember right in our flood plan, we have action points at 20 feet, 24, and 26. And the 24 and 26 are pretty serious. 20 is kind of just get ready. So right now we're at the hurry up and wait stage. We have some things ready, and with a moment's notice we can get the rest ready. I think the city kind of has a similar vulnerability in that regard. Of course, they put in the floodgates about 20 feet, and then when it gets up in the upper 20s, they start making other arrangements that sometimes we're involved in. So just to keep you up to date on that, we are watching that closely every day. Also, I have two items on the city council meeting tomorrow night. One is the sewer ordinance endorsement that you guys approved at last month's meeting. And then also, assuming you guys approve tonight, the Ameren contract that's on our agenda later. Carrie's been working on a small committee within the NEMO Economic Development Board on updating their logo and website, so kind of like what we did here in the last few months, so appreciate her helping with that. One of the interesting items on that is it looks like the name of the NEMO EDC is going to change to Animal Regional EDC. Hopefully, board meeting this week, and that's one of the topics.
Our new director is suggesting that.
Yeah, it's kind of a marketing thing. He said we're missing out on a marketing opportunity by not including the Hannibal name. So for us, that's a big thing.
Before I moved here, I thought Nemo was a fish.
In stormwater, we have been focusing on the public education with Proposition S. Appreciate Andrea, Carrie, Matt assisting with that. You see the list in my report. There's, however many, a dozen or so places we've been already, and we have a few more to go to. Appreciate you guys coming to the public meeting, and then appreciate Stephen came last week when we went to the Democratic Club to assist. Two kind of up-and-coming, maybe three up-and-coming key items. The public meeting on the 28th at City Hall is a kind of a repeat of the one we had on the 7th. Which we will be recording, so people will view that as well. And then we have a couple of radio spots. I think it's one radio spot and then a repeat. Am I right, Carrie? Mm-hmm. On KHMO on the 27th at 8:40 in the morning. It's the talkback. And then they'll repeat that on the 1st of April as well. We thought we reached a lot of people doing that last time, right before the vote. So also, this week we're going to the Business Expo, and we'll have a booth there. It's a Board of Public Works booth, but we'll have some Proposition S stuff there as well. in listening in or stopping by the booth or whatever needs to be so.
What is that, Keith? When was that? When is it?
The Business Expo is this week, Thursday,
Yeah.
6 o'clock?
4:30, 6:30.
Yes.
Also, in the stormwater department, Andrea has out her sign up for the spring cleanup scheduled for the 27th of April. This is a co-sponsored event with Stream Team, Parks and Rec, and the Chamber of Commerce. It's close to Earth Day, not right on the dot because of date timing and Easter and stuff like that, but it's kind of intended to be close to Earth Day. If you want to volunteer, you can let her, let her know, and she'll get you on the list. I think it's a Saturday.
Deal, Saturday.
In the electric department, we had a couple of outages in the months. We had a really good month of outages, especially with the heavy winds we had some days, and the kind of snow, rain, ice mix we had some days in February. Pretty good outage months. It only affected 13 total customers, so couldn't ask for much better. Although as I was writing this report, we had our big outage on Monday the 11th, where the south side sub went down because of that potential transformer failing, exploding, whatever it did. We were able to get the power back on in about 30 minutes for those customers just by doing some backfeeding in the substation.
What's that?
I said it done both, it failed and exploded.
One of the interesting lessons after the fact is Jared sent some pictures to Carrie of the potential transformer and put it on our social media sites. So we got quite a bit of comments and activity related to looking at those photos and finding out what was going on. So kind of one of the lessons learned is we need to look for opportunities to put things on our Facebook page that's interesting to our customers. If we have an outage or some sort of water leak or something, they're interested in that. And we did it the next day. It wasn't even Monday night. This was Tuesday. So we got a lot of interest from our customers on that. And thank you, Jerry and Carrie, for arranging those communications.
Get a fried squirrel on there, maybe.
The funniest one was the terrier. Like a terrier. Concern where they can have a future regulation on it, or they can increase the regulation on an existing item. So they're just doing random testing on surface water plants or whatever. So they send you bottles with instructions and all that stuff. Just a few of interest this year that we're testing for the next few months are some cyanotoxins, which are linked to algae blooms. I think they had an issue on the Ohio River a few years ago with algae blooms, so they're trying to investigate them more. There's not a current regulation for them, but probably coming. Halocitic acids, which are chlorine disinfection byproducts, which are already regulated for. They're considering regulating more of them. They're learning about more of them all the time. They may even lower the threshold for the regulation now. And there's just a few other various chemical compounds. The good news is once our new GHC system is up and running, it should give us a good chance to meet most future water quality regulations without additional capital investment. That's the intent anyway. At the wastewater plant, the old bar screens are completely removed and that project is over. So, operators and the maintenance crew are making preparations for the disinfection season. And, just to make you aware, we have an NPDES permit with DNR, and the disinfection season is called the recreation season in the Mississippi River, and it's April 1st through the end of October. And that's the required time we're required to disinfect with chlorine. And then also add bisulfite to take away the effects of chlorine on the environment. In the remaining part of the year, we cannot disinfect. So the advantage of that is when we're not disinfecting, we can do maintenance. We don't have to take an outage of the whole plant. We can do maintenance on the chlorine system. So they're prepping right now for the April 1st disinfection season. Then in the IT department, the AMI project, the metering project that Matthew talked about maybe 3 months ago here at board meeting, he continues to work with Aclara on contract negotiations, and then pretty quickly he'll be passing that on to James for legal review and begin work hopefully July 1. Now, right after my report, I put in there an update from Prairie State. It's a publication that NWA produces for its customers who participate in Prairie State. Just wanted to look at the availability factor chart. Notice this year was was their record, 82.7% availability. Kind of hoping for 85 in the future, but they've been hovering around 80 for 4 years now, so. That's all I have, unless there's questions about that or anything else on the report.
Questions, anyone? No? Okay, thanks. Next up, financial report. Take the podium.
Take a stand. Good evening. In the financial packet, the first page, of course, is the balance sheet. This is the kind of month I like to talk about, honestly. It's mostly good news. The balance sheet is very consistent. Assets are virtually unchanged from last month and are up about 2% from a year ago. The next page is February compared to budget. February's company-wide net income is about 55% more than budget, driven by the receipt of reimbursement from a Florida city related to storm relief efforts our line performed a few months ago. Operating expenses were less than budgeted in the water fund, which also helped results. All other revenues and expenses were generally consistent with the budget, particularly in the sewer fund. Revenue is within $89 of budget, which is kind of makes, in all seriousness, those kind of things make me feel comfortable that our revenue model and the processes we use for budget are working and are functional, and the stuff we'll talk about hopefully at our budget workshop. It's not just nerd March Madness type of stuff. Anyway, next page back is February compared to last year. February's company-wide net income is about 66% more than the same month last year, due pretty much to the same factors we just talked about. The next page is fiscal year-to-date compared to budget. We're, of course, 9 months into the current fiscal year, and company-wide net income is about 12% below budget. This is being driven entirely by the electric fund, as the water and sewer funds net income is in total about 24% more than budgeted. The electric fund's results reflect unfavorable budget variances in operating revenues, power supply costs, operating expenses, and depreciation expense. These variances, respectively, are being driven by lower kilowatt-hour unit sales, higher per megawatt-hour costs in the MISO marketplace, and higher than budgeted costs related to our diesel generators, tree trimming, and maintenance expenses and professional services. All these items are within about 3% of their budget amounts, but in total, they're causing over $600,000 in unfavorable variance in net income. So they're all close, but they're all going the wrong direction, unfortunately. The next page is fiscal year-to-date compared to the same time period last year. Company-wide net income is about 25% less than the same time period last year, due to the same factors previously mentioned in the year-to-date budget comparison, as well as the significant storm relief efforts we performed last winter, which were about 5 times as much as we did this year. Results in the water and sewer funds are significantly improved from last year to date, driven by increases in operating revenues, more than offsetting increases in expenses. We've come in more than budget for revenue in those two funds, largely because of the extra usage of general mills. When we did this budget, early in calendar year 2018, that new usage had just taken effect. We weren't sure how to budget for that, and that kind of thing. So that's going forward, my budget will catch up based on the actual results. Kind of in summary, though our company-wide results are below budget, we have a few months left to go in the fiscal year. In my opinion, the results are acceptable. The next pages cover cash targets and cash reserves. Cash reserves are steady. Kind of want to mention, like I did last month, that the water funds cash reflects the approximately $1.1 million we've paid out of pocket so far for engineering on the GAC facility. Also include our investment listing in there, like I did last month. Next page, of course, have the dashboard. I'm generally happy with the general direction of our cash reserves, company-wide net income as a percentage of budget, and unit sales compared to their 5-year averages. I think we have some decent trends there. That's the books.
Thank you.
So we expect to go in, finish the year 10% behind then?
This time of year is generally a pretty smooth month. We don't see massive variances in the shoulder months, April, May. If we have a hot June, we can make up some time, or make up some unit sales. If we have a cool, chilly June, well, no.
Is electric, do we get a boost from cold weather with it?
It's more of a heating, it's more hot weather, cooling related activity,
Gotcha.
July, August, September, hot September. We do pick up. One thing to The budget tries to reflect this, or does reflect the seasonality of the unit sales, because it's based on the previous 12 months actual, so it's, you know, January reflects January. I don't take the revenue divided by 12 type of thing, it's, you know, seasonally adjusted. So a hot May, a hot June could bring us back up to budget. Most likely we'll end the year 10 and 12% below budget, company-wide. Good question.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
That's it.
Yep. Projects report.
Getting closer on closing out the SRF project. DNR is in the process of completing their review of our as constructed drawings. One thing that's holding us up right now, they want verification and one minor modification to the new water tower that was constructed. That's scheduled to be done here at the end of March, 1st of April. So once we get that and get pictures sent to them, they'll go ahead and sign off on it, and we can hopefully close this project out.
What's the liner all about? Just out of curiosity.
What?
What do they want modified on the liner?
They changed, back in about 2013, 2014, they changed their requirements on how far a vent had to be off the top of the tank. It used to be 12 inches and is now 24 inches. So we had to modify the vent up another 12 inches to meet their requirement, so.
Even though they approved the drawing to begin with.
Yep.
They can change the rules, whatever.
So once we get that done, we got 2 pieces of paper that I've had on my computer for about 6 months now that are awaiting heat signature so we can close the project out. At the water plant, GAC project, contractor moved their construction trailer on site back in February. They fenced off the project site, and they've been working a lot trying to get their submittals and stuff approved by Black and Beach. You know, stuff like the rebar, the concrete mix design, excavation plan. They're going to excavate probably 20+ feet deep, so they have to have a plan for their shoring, and it has to be approved by or designed by an engineer. So again, we're waiting for warmer weather. Hopefully this continues so we can paint the warm bear tank, something that was approved, I think it was August or September of last year. And then on the downtown SSO project, we were trying to get a few items completed before the river came up. So we were unsuccessful on that. We did, during last month, replace a manhole down at the corner of Monroe and Sycamore that's under about 2.5 feet of water now. The old one, the lid wasn't a sealed or bolted lid, so it was the lowest one in the system in that area. So hopefully sealed out some more I&I there. Another thing we found just by chance the other day was the clean out to the ball field. It was located in a ditch, and we went down and looked at it. They cleaned out the ditch, and somebody had knocked it over, and so it was a 6-inch pipe that was open to flood conditions. So we're always working to try to find these things and catch that. Yeah. So, and then we're just trying to complete things as they come along. We still got a repair to do up on Mark Twain Avenue when time allows, and then dive into sealing off some services over in the Patchen Street area of houses that have been demoed in the past. So.
Any result? I mean, this third pilot test on the GAC, that's just a different supplier? Or?
We're looking at different products. We've narrowed it down to 3 products. One of them is a reactivated product of coal base, so just to try to compare it to what the previous tests were.
Is your TOC meter running now?
Yep.
What are you seeing? Any trends on that?
On the TOCs on the
TOCs
pilot?
running now? High? Or
They're starting to go up.
okay.
We were at, I want to say 7 weeks on this, 7 or 8 weeks on this project, and they're just starting to go up. We're actually losing flow through the pilot also. So essentially plugging up, and backwashing hasn't helped.
Another thing was the TOC of the water coming into the plant has been lower, which is you expect to see during the winter months, so.
Yeah, that was what I guess I was asking about, was the raw water.
Raw water TOC has been down, yes.
Okay. But the last thing we want to do is plug up this GAC that we get in there. It's one thing with the pilot. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Exciting time. That was a good video overhead of the water plant that I saw on social
Oh, those
media.
aerials, yeah.
Yeah. That'll be fun to see as we go along, I think. Start digging holes and all that. Okay, next up, projects report. Or no, that was it. Old business. Water fund bond grading. And then I'll say that's good.
Yep. So 2 items kind of on the same topic here. One is just, want to share the good news on our water bond rating. We had a whole lot of assistance from Joey Howard, our financial advisor. She was instrumental in this. She came to town, had a face-to-face preparation meeting with Heath and I and Jeff Lagars, and she pretty much matched exactly what the ratings agency ended up going over with us. We had a call, like I talked about in my memo here, like it lasted about an hour and 15 minutes with Standard & Poor's. Heath was there, Matt was there. They were, can't say enough about how helpful they were to be in the meeting on the call with me. They probably answered 2/3 of the questions or so about operations and stuff. Anyway, we came in with an A- rating, which was at the very highest end of where Joey, our financial advisor, expected us to fall. I kind of copy and pasted from Standard & Poor's ratings from their website, where we kind of line it there. So we're a step above the entry-level investment grade. And I also included in my packet there the several pages of analysis that Standard & Poor's provided us, which I thought was very much on topic. They praised our operations of our utility, our financial management, our business model in general, our rate setting ability, that kind of stuff. Of course, things like indebtedness and household median income, that kind of thing were challenges to our utility. The kind of stuff we talk about pretty consistently in these meetings. But no action required or asked of the board. Just want to share that information with you. The good rating, of course, will help us get more bids for our bonds and also bring down our interest rate that we expect to pay on the bonds. If you guys have any questions about that process?
Is this, you mentioned to me, this is basically the same rating we were upgraded to for the sewer fund.
It is. It's different rating agencies, but comparable rating toward the sewer fund. The sewer fund was initially rated one notch below this by Moody's, but then was subsequently upgraded based on an internal algorithm change that Moody's had. So this rating is on par, kind of apples to apples, or if you can compare apples to apples with Moody's. It was the first time the water fund, anybody here's knowledge, has ever been rated. The DNR SRF money was unrated, did not require an independent rating. So this is kind of a uncharted territory, so we're a little nervous, fingers crossed type of thing, but we're very pleased with how it came in.
And I know you put in your memo, Joey said this was the highest expected rating that she thought we could get, basically based upon our debt and our
Just our
cash
city's,
on hand.
yeah, our utility size, the overall size of our utility. Some of these higher rated our utilities are just much larger operations. They have deeper access to capital markets and operational backup and that kind of stuff that we simply don't have in a city of 17,590.
With 18% poverty rate. Ms. Howard has a lot of experience too, I think. right?
Yes, much experience, something around 3.5 decades of doing this work.
So
Billions and billions of dollars
she
in bonds sold.
guesses it's usually pretty close, so
Yeah, she is an expert in her field.
that's good news.
Yep, good news. Quite a bit of information there to digest, but it's I think it's pretty interesting. That's,
Well,
it's all relative.
The S&P, and
I don't have.
it sounds about right.
I don't
to
have
me,
Final
you
Four
know.
brackets, but I did read the rationale memo from Standard & Poor's.
I told somebody, I was tickled that our water utility has high liquidity.
Very funny there, actually.
Joke better, but anyway, I went ahead and threw that out. so, all right. And now the bond sale schedule.
Yes, updated time frame from the same Ms. Howard. And so we do actually request the board to set a special meeting date for next Monday at 2 p.m. This will be a multi-functional special meeting, starting off with some documents that we have yet to receive. The board will be asked to approve to forward to city council to authorize the bond sale and related resolutions and ordinances for that. Ms. Howard will be here in person to talk about bond procedures, bond sale procedures and different terms and things like that. And then we will transition after that to our, I hope you guys will declare to be a budget workshop where we can kind of go through the budget process and results and.
So that's already on my calendar.
And kind of the reason for that day is the city council meeting on April 2nd, and then on the 16th, it's kind of set up for their approval, so we're trying to get you guys' approval ahead of time.
So that keeps us on the schedule for getting those bonds out there and sold.
Yep.
All right.
What time are we doing that?
Are you
2
proposing
p.m.
meetings then?
2 p.m.
On Monday the 25th.
You know, 5-10 minutes of,
Well, 5-10 minutes, or
A
10 or 15
run
minutes is
through.
really probably,
yeah.
educating us first. The actual business item will take 30 seconds of the legal documents that James will have looked at and bond counsel prepared. James will have reviewed, or has reviewed.
James will say they're a lot smarter than James is. And,
Not smarter James, just more experienced in that particular nuance of law.
oh, you know, I know you. He's so great.
10-15 minutes of that, and then as long as you want a budget workshop, but we're anticipating a couple hours.
10 to 15 minutes of flattering James.
That sounds fabulous.
It's a roast, but a nice one. Yeah, I guess a couple hours to go through the budget workshop.
I think that's what we did last year. Maybe even more. All right, so we don't need any action on,
Well, we do, we need to
Yeah,
set the
we need
meeting,
you to set the meeting date, and
Oh,
then vote on
so-
meeting date and time.
do I hear a motion
March
to
25th,
set a
2 p.m.
meeting date of March 25th at 2 p.m., special meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, and a second?
Also.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And it's here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All the old business, now on to new business. First up, PWSD number 1, Rawls County rate change notification.
Yeah, this is just a draft of a letter that can be sent to Rawls County Public Water Supply District number 1, assuming you guys approve, just notifying them of the proposed 3.5% increase in the water fund, proposing for July 1. If you remember, they have a 90-day rate change notice in the contract with them. Probably won't even be buying water from us at this point, but in order to make the rate change effective July 1, gotta send the notice by, I believe, next week sometime, so. Because it's, just kinda asking for your approval, just because you haven't approved the rate change yet, so. And the key thing to remember is, if for some reason the 3.5% changes to 3.4 or some different number, I'll have to resend them a notification.
That'll reset the 90 days.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they're looking to be on their own source, I think, around that time, or maybe within a month or two, so it's not a big deal, but let's go ahead. That's good that we're moving forward with it, so you never know what happens in construction,
Yeah.
so.
And they could have a day or two here and there where they need water from us, so we still gotta keep the wholesale rate
True.
in our rate schedule.
All right. And we do anticipate the 3.5%, which is our scheduled one that we have told everybody, and even with the project possibly being slightly less than anticipated, we won't know that until
Yeah,
we get
What we're
pretty
kinda
far
thinking
into
is,
it, so.
of course, it looks good now, having the bids lower than anticipated. And our all-in cost looks like it's gonna be, 11, 12 million instead of 14.5. But a lot of things can happen during construction, so we'd like to stick with the 5-year rate plan that's laid out until construction is done, and then as we get out in years 4 or 5, if lessening the increases can happen,
Yeah,
Great.
that's kind of best case scenario. But we're gonna stick with the increases that we said for the first 2 or 3 years. I
Yeah,
think.
and this would be year 1.5.
Right.
So,
Okay, good. So do I need a motion to accept that? Okay, do I hear a motion to?
Yeah, make a motion.
accept that?
I'll say.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks. And next, Cameron Wholesale Distribution System Contract Revision.
yeah, this is a little bit complicated, so I'm gonna try to explain it as best I can. We have 2 sources of electrical power. You guys remember from our board training sessions, 2 sources of electrical power coming from the Ameren transmission grid. One source is the west substation out west of town by the Rocket that we added in 2009. And then we have the Marion substation down by Highway 79, Mark Twain Cave, that's been down there at least since the 1970s feeding us power. This particular contract is for the Marion substation. Has nothing to do with the west substation. When we installed the diesel generators, Ameren was required to update their protected relays at both sites, at the Marion substation and at the west feed point. We agreed on a construction services contract with Ameren on the details of the project and how much it would cost and schedule and all that stuff. Now the project is complete and has been for quite a while, and the changes that they're recommending in this wholesale distribution system agreement reflect the upgrades they had to do, the cost of the upgrades they had to do with the Marion substation. Basically, what they're proposing is the facilities charge at the Marion substation increased from $19,912 a month to $33,517 per month.
That is steep.
Yes, and they have, in their, you can see in the contract documents, they have FERC approval on certain percentages of their maintenance at the substation site. All that is built into their contracts, and I'm not gonna say we don't have a choice, but that's kind of the way it is. I mean, they oversee them and oversee these type of contracts. There is no facilities charge at the west substation for a switch station for a couple reasons. It's constructed right near an Ameren transmission line, right up against it. The Marion substation is on a radial. It's not, it's whatever it is, 5-6 miles from the Ameren transmission line. In 2009, when the west substation, west switch station connection was added, we paid for the land and the construction of the switch station outright. We did not contract the same way that the Marion sub is. So there's no monthly fee. We paid $2.2 million for the ground and the switch station, and it's Ameren's from then on, and we don't pay anymore. So in the long term, that's a more economical approach. But at the Marion sub right now, we're stuck with this radio feed and this facilities charge. It's changed. This will be the second time the facilities charge has changed since I've been here. It changed in 2009 when we added the second feed line. It actually lowered because the amount of power we were getting out of it was less. And the substation also feeds Conlon Cement as well, the Marion does. James did get to look at this last week, so thank you for that. It's good with the changes in the agreement. And there's a couple reasons I need you guys' approval. One, the mayor needs to sign this, so I need to get his approval or the council's approval tomorrow. And then also there's for me to sign. And what Ameren told us the other day was the actual increase in payment wouldn't happen until MISO also has to review has to approve after we sign and Ameren signs. So it'd be June or July when we see the actual increase in the monthly fee.
And so this monthly fee is basically in perpetuity as long as we're using that substation?
Yeah. Yeah, and we pay it, but Conlon Cement will not. It's a publicly owned.
There's no provisions for a negotiation on this, or
Not as far as I
no
know.
appeal type thing?
There may be some legal appeals that, I won't say slow it down, but make it delayed before it hits us, but I'm sure we have to take back payments. I'm surprised they waited this long. We've been done with they've been done with the switches for a year now, so. yeah,
They
it's
was
about a
doing
year.
some other upgrades along with, upgrading our stuff at the same time, and I think they had to wait till they closed out the project, so they had a total number to submit to.
Yeah, essentially, every time they upgrade that substation, let's just say they replace a transformer, we're on the hook to pay extra facilities charges.
So we're just sort of renting the, basically.
And there's a threshold too,
thing.
that they can submit for. You know, it's not like a $10,000 hit they can submit, and another $10,000 hit they submit. There's a threshold, they have to get to so much percentage of capital
Yeah, half a day
before
or something.
they can get to that point, so.
If they put new rock down the driveway, they're not gonna bill us for it.
They'll put it in a bill, eventually, we'll pay for it, but they have to get to that threshold number.
Okay, everybody understand as well as I do what's going on here?
Any
Or
motion?
hopefully better than I understand.
And just one more thing real quick. So basically, we're paying for the right to use it, but we don't get, and we pay for a lot of it, but we don't get to claim it as an asset.
Yes.
So it's, and we have no control, and if we say, no, we're not gonna approve this, essentially, we go to court and/or we stop being able to use it.
I believe so. I don't know about the going to court and stop being able to use it part, but they have FERC-approved contracts with FERC-approved percentages in it that we signed on to, we agreed to a long
And
time.
our
So this is a
project caused them to do the
Yes,
upgrades.
this is a revision,
So they're getting paid for
second
that.
revision on this contract that we agreed to a long, long time ago. So we're just agreeing to a revision, which is basically a bunch of lawyerese and an increase in price.
I believe, I haven't ever had to represent anybody in one of these, but I believe if you reject, if FERC has already approved the contract, your right is appeal to FERC for them to look at it, for you to justify why their numbers are wrong and why they're wrong. And
The time may have been when they submitted the FERC, then that would be when you would go in.
Probably, but I don't know that they were required to give us notice. Again, you know, it works a little differently than, say, Public Service Commission does in the state of Missouri, but it's somewhat similar to that, is my understanding. But like I say, I've never represented anybody on one of these where they protested. I've never seen the city say anything other than, okay, well, if that's what we gotta do, we gotta do. The concept being that if FERC approved it, that they were required to come to at least a certain level of proof in order to get the approval of the contract. Now, that's not to say that you don't have a right to protest, you don't have a right to appeal, say, we think that's wrong, we think those numbers are incorrect, but it's my understanding that what you're gonna be required to do is you're gonna have to hire your own people to come in and do an analysis and show that their numbers are wrong, because basic theory is if they spend the money on it, they're entitled to ask us to reimburse them for that. So,
In particular with the diesel generators, I mean, we caused that increase. Those increases were $1,000 in switches.
And so when did we first find out about this? Like within the past month or two?
Maybe 2 months ago when they brought the proposal to us, yeah, to get us to sign.
So in other words, it's not in the budget.
No, it's not in the operations budget.
Okay.
Well, it is, but by the time it kicks in.
Yeah, for the new proposed
This
fiscal
new
year.
year,
Okay.
because it won't even take effect till the summer,
Okay.
and it's baked into the draft.
Cool.
So I would suggest if you want to argue it, not to hire James, since he
Okay.
said he had no experience.
that's a valid point. We probably need to find somebody out of St. Louis or Kansas City, because it's just not something that comes up in most people's practice, having a FERC appeal.
I'm gonna go along with that. I just wanted to make sure I exhausted all
Sure.
avenues.
It's a valid point.
Fighting Ameren seems like a really good idea.
David and
I doubt they
Goliath.
have lawyers on staff.
They have a couple, I think.
If you have a fun fight to settle up for.
Okay,
Other questions
have
on
been
that?
exhausted. Our questions, or do you have more questions?
I am exhausted.
All right, I'm exhausted too. Do I hear a motion to accept approve the recommended contract revision?
Yeah, approve the revision to the contract.
Okay,
I'll make a motion.
okay. Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Should put the bad news first. I guess you couldn't. Well, rate change is good news. Not for somebody. Okay, on to special reports.
That's me.
Our own Stefan Frank.
So, I think I pretty much got it all in there, but I'll try to verbally recap it a little bit. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, Jared, Heath, the mayor, and I went to DC for HBPW's annual legislative rally. We met with most of the Missouri congressional delegation, and they sent us a mixture of legislative assistants who are note takers, legislative directors who are actually pretty important people, and some Congress people themselves showed up. Blaine Lukemeyer was genuinely interested in what we had to say and what was going on. Billy Long we skipped because we were continuing our conversation with Sam Graves. And the guy from down south, Jason Smith, didn't really seem like he was super interested in talking to us. He just wanted to come, rub elbows, you know, press flash and take a picture. And anyways, that was kind of the negative side of it. And one more quick thing, it didn't really seem like anybody really understood how rural utilities or public utilities in general worked, which is not super comforting on any level at all. But that's okay because it gives us an opportunity to, you know, continue dialogue, further open our lines of communication. And before we went, Lenny had an idea that I didn't quite get at the time, because I mean, this is Lenny's greater experience than mine in this case. But he suggested we take them, you know, a list of capital expenditures that we have laid out over the next 5-10 years. And I think that's a really good idea because these people on a daily basis deal with numbers that to us are so big they're imaginary. But if we can find a way to bridge that educational gap and somehow get them to understand that, you know, $10 million, $20 million over the course of a few years, or $100 or $200 million over the course of a few decades is a massive amount of money to us, hopefully they'd be more motivated to, you know, move on some sort of large-scale infrastructure plan because that's something we need. Those were the negatives. The positives were, it's kind of an unparalleled opportunity for Jared, Heath, the mayor, and I to spend some time together. I'm a big believer that relationships are responsible for getting things done. And when you're forced to be with somebody for 3 days, for better or for worse, you inherently get to know them better no matter what. And beyond that, Heath and Jared, at least from their telling, made some and continue to make and grow and further cement existing relationships within the APPA and PUA network. And just a really cool thing because when something goes wrong or you want to learn something, you can pick up the phone and call a friend instead of, you know, Googling something or reading something in a manual. And I think there's a whole lot of value for that almost can't be quantified, monetarily at least. And, oh, this is the last big one. At least within the Missouri congressional delegation, you know, we had around 20 people there within all these meetings, and you know, that doesn't seem like a lot, but when we come across the country to go to those meetings, I think it is a lot, and hopefully that translated to the LAs, the LDs, and the Congress people themselves. How much we believe in and care for and hope to perpetuate public utilities in our communities as a force to empower the people to control, you know, what are their basic human needs for electricity and water, among other things. So there's another big plus. I hope I have the chance to go back in the future, and that's all I got, unless Jared or Heath got something else to add.
Pretty much covered it. One of the things that was, I think, an advantage was when we had the mayor there, for some reason, Representative Graves wanted to meet specifically with us and the mayor. Don't know why, but he made sure he made a special meeting for us outside of the other, he couldn't come to the regular meeting. So we were able to meet with him specifically in a smaller group, where we were actually able to talk. In the big group, sometimes we weren't able to say much specific to Hannibal. So we got to talk about a few specific issues in Greenville in particular, and let him know how that could affect us. And of course, he's got his local contact here that we stay in contact with as well, so.
I was gonna say his assistant is on the economic
He's not on,
council.
but he attends most of their meetings, yeah.
Right. So we have a good pipeline there. I
Yes,
think if we do want to try to do some more education or have some needs that we want to communicate, that would be a good way of passing them on to him.
And I think just putting our face in front of our representatives, Mr. Graves, we met with Ms. O'Laughlin a couple months ago, and
She's new.
trying to get a meeting with Mr. Riggs. Just, hey, how you doing? This is who we are. Here's how we can be a resource for you if you have questions on topics that are, affect us. And, obviously we're gonna have stuff, Greenville in particular, that we want them to be educated about, so.
Because, I mean, the alternative to them getting their information from us is them getting their information from paid lobbyists with an agenda that might not be friendly to ours.
We just wanna build a relationship with them.
Yeah, and I do want to say that Sam Graves, his office booked a room for us for an entire day, which was really, really helpful and really nice. So then we didn't have to go treasure hunting throughout the, Rayburn house office building. So that was a really nice thing for him to do.
We want our,
Thank you for
get
going.
as much as our tax money back in here as we can.
Absolutely.
During this tax season, especially, well, all right, well, good report.
Good
That you
presentation.
all, enjoyed and represented us well. Any questions, anybody?
Did you have fun?
I had a blast. I went to college in DC, so I went out
Good.
3 days early and saw about 15 friends. Went on a nice run with Heath one morning to the Lincoln Memorial. Played our butts off, but it's okay. That's
That was timed perfectly. Gary, did you get to see anybody you knew when you were out there?
Yeah, there's several people from APPA that I know that,
Good.
for being on the NO board and
Yeah.
the RP3 board and stuff.
Right.
There's several people there from APPA that I've met.
All right, good. Okay. Next up, comments from city attorney.
I have no comments.
No comments. That's
good.
for the best, right?
Absolutely.
Good legal advice is to have no comment, I think, in
Yeah.
general. Finally, general discussion.
I do not have any.
Really?
You're
You're
gonna
kind of
lose the
depend
ti-
on
you're
you.
gonna lose the title of Little Bob if you keep doing that.
I'm sure
2
there'll be
months in a
some
row.
recordings later.
No general discussion. You are the general manager, I assume general discussion is on your purview. so. Okay, very good. Well, that
I'll make a motion.
concludes the open portion of the meeting.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we move into closed session pursuant to section 610.021, paragraph 3 and 12, is that right?
Yep.
Of the Missouri Sunshine Law, and the meeting shall convene in closed session to discuss personnel and contracts.
Admitting.
And admitting,
Board, myself, Courtney, Abe, Jared, and Matt.
Doggone it. I mean,
And James, if he wants to.
that's all right, I'll,
Nothing that we absolutely need.
okay.
do you have a second?
Oh, second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. That's it.
Okay, thank you.